this is all a dream? That I'm going to wake up soon and it's all been a weird dream? Do you know? Welcome to day 4 of state of emergency in Portugal. Here I am, beautiful spring day. It's absolutely glorious day outside. A few clouds, but just beautiful. Extremely quiet. So it's a Sunday, but it's incredibly quiet outside. I will be going out for a walk today, maybe not as long as yesterday's, because yesterday was quite a long walk. I'll see how I go. So let's start with the update on the numbers. I'm looking at my laptop screen for Portugal. So there are 1,600 cases in total confirmed, 14 deaths, but I don't think they're new deaths. I think they're deaths total. I will confirm if that's the case or not, but I believe that's deaths total. So that's about another 2 from yesterday, if it's total, because yesterday we were at 12 deaths. News from Australia. Well, my people are all well. This is the reason I'm still smiling here, because they're well and cheerful. My eldest daughter does have a cold and a cough, and I keep telling her to take care, obviously, as I would anyway, but I'm also telling her to assume that she has the virus, just so that she's extra careful and doesn't actually go out and spread it. But this morning in my inbox, where I get headlines from the Courier Mail, which is the Brisbane newspaper, they were still saying extraordinary things like pubs and clubs face shutdown, which means they haven't shut yet. So pubs are still open in Australia, even as I speak, I guess. Whether people are going to them is a different matter, but they're still open. And clubs, and by clubs they also mean the RSL clubs, where return war veterans frequent these clubs, and they're often elderly or certainly in their 60s and 70s. And school closures considered. So the schools are not yet closed, but then later this morning I read another article from Courier Mail, and the PM, the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, is definitely going to close some pubs, clubs, licensed venues within hotels, gyms, indoor sporting venues, entertainment venues, cinemas, casinos, restaurants and cafes will be restricted to takeaway only. Churches and other places of worship, bottle shops would remain open along with supermarkets and petrol stations. But that's from tomorrow at noon, tomorrow Monday, the 23rd of March. So that's what's happening in Australia. Yesterday, as I was saying, I went for a long walk and it was wonderful. As far as I know, yesterday was the first day of spring here in Western Europe. And
hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Isabel. I hope you're enjoying this series of videos I filmed in Lisbon. I am now back in Australia, as you can probably guess. Yes, I made it back home, but not without lots of adventures along the way, including my 2 weeks in hotel quarantine in Melbourne after I got back to Australia, which I also filmed. So be sure to subscribe and come back and watch those videos as I upload them. So take care and see you next time.
it was just a glorious, beautiful day. Very, very quiet streets, as you will see in the video. The people out are people like me walking on their own from place to place. There's a few couples around. They obviously they live together, and so if they're going to get the virus, they are going to get the virus together. So I did see a group of people, and they were just sort of, I don't know, maybe they were quite animated. Yes, a few younger people out. What I do see a lot is, or at least I guess we notice them more now, are the homeless people. And so, because there's no people on the streets, so you notice the few people that there are on the streets. Many homeless people here in downtown Lisbon, which is really my neighborhood. And I was just texting a friend of mine who lives here in Lisbon on a different hill. She's shuttered in with her husband, and they've had coughs, and they feel they've had the virus, or they're still having it. They're not going anywhere. They don't have any symptoms that will lead them to go to the hospital, so far anyway, so they're doing really well. They were in Madrid just 2 weeks ago, and they returned. Yeah, they feel they have the virus. Yeah, we were texting back and forth about how terrible it is for the homeless people now in Lisbon, because they depended on handouts from pedestrian traffic. People who'd give them a coin. A lot of these homeless people also have drug dependency issues, like everywhere else in the world. And the worry, I have been considering whether it's going to keep safe being out and about, even in the daylight, when the streets are empty and when these people are actually the people you will encounter on the streets. You sort of wonder whether desperation will lead them to crime. And by crime, I mean muggings. I don't mean, they would harm me necessarily, but they would probably want money, even if they had to force it out of me. Not just because they're hungrier than usual, I expect, but because if they need to support their habits, they will be more desperate than usual. These are the thoughts in my head. I did wonder this morning whether I will keep feeling relatively safe in these streets. That are wonderfully beautiful at the moment. They're so quiet and sunny in spring. And I'll just change hands here because I am holding my phone. And so these are the thoughts that occur to you. How long will we be safe from the crime that might be provoked by an increased quantity of people who are increasingly desperate, who were not criminals before? They might have been beggars, but not criminals. So that's one thing that I was reflecting about today. Yeah, I still haven't succeeded in uploading even the first video that I edited, and I was trying to upload it onto YouTube. I left it uploading all night. Last I looked, it was still about 35% uploaded. I assume it's because the internet is just extremely overloaded at the moment, the capacity, the speed or upload speed. And to start with, I guess I don't have that much of speed capacity. Don't ask me about numbers and megabytes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I will keep doing these videos because, as I said in the first video from day one, it gives me something to do, a creative outlet. It's a creative outlet, this talking, even if it's just to myself. But I do assume that people will chance upon me on YouTube, apart from my family and the closest people that I might send these videos to, and also my future self and my future descendants. I do think that I will have some views, but I feel it's therapeutic for me to voice my thoughts aloud, since I'm actually not talking to people aloud that much. I might I'm actually messaging people, text messages, more than I am speaking to them on the phone. I'll make at least one phone call per day. Yesterday I spoke to my niece here. She's my niece. She's around my age, and she's got 3 children who are the age of my youngest. They're triplets, and they are at university, their first year. Anyway, so we were just chatting yesterday. I was actually chatting to her as I was walking the streets. She's a very positive person. She's not concerned. I mean, obviously we are all very concerned. What I mean is she's not concerned about her health or her family's health. She does have an elderly mother, my sister-in-law, so obviously that's our main worries. We're all in this together. I think it makes us, there's a degree of consolation and comfort knowing that we all have a common enemy. It's not like we're alone in this. And it's interesting that I was talking to the same person, to the same friend. Her name is Anna. I might as well name her. And asking how she was coping, because she does have anxiety issues. And she said she's not stressed. She doesn't feel stressed. She's sleeping well. She says that the concerns are just so large that it actually exceeds stress. And I know actually what she means. There's nothing you can do. It's out of your control. So, and also we're all in this together, and it's not like we're stressing on our own. For once, we feel that our stresses are in common with everyone else's stresses. And that actually makes us, well, we're obviously worried, but it's not like, so far at least, and in my case and in my friend Anna's case, we're not letting anxiety get the better of us. I hope that stays the case, because anxiety in excess is not useful. It's just not useful. A bit of stress is useful. That's why it was invented, to make us be able to survive in critical times. It makes us faster, react to stimulus faster, but yeah. So again, I went to the supermarket on my way back from the walk. I went to a different supermarket yesterday. Again, it was quite empty, fairly empty. My brother Paulo, who lives outside Lisbon, in the suburbs, he says he went to a supermarket and it was just so many people waiting outside, because people need to wait outside until they're let in, because you can't have too many people at the same time. In here, at least, I mean, in Australia, they seem to let in everyone, but here you have to wait outside until, so no crowds inside the supermarket. And I think that might help the whole panic buying impulse. If you don't see too many people around you grabbing stuff from the shelf in a manic way, it might prevent you wanting to do the same. I bought some more fruit. I bought a frozen meal of bacalhau à brás, which bacalhau, if you've ever been to Portugal, you know that we're mad about bacalhau. It's basically codfish, but it's dried and salted, and then we make it into all kinds of recipes. There's about 300 or more recipes of bacalhau in Portugal. It's one of our specialties. It is a little bit of an acquired taste, as you can imagine. It's salted dry fish. People boil it, they roast it, they bake it. In this case, it's fried with egg and chips, a few olives. I bought more bread. I have a fascination for bread. If you've seen my freezer in my first video, you'll know. It's just so tasted, and so I had a good meal yesterday for lunch, and last night I just had bread and cheese. Yeah, I don't need to eat that much, and also because I'm doing a little bit less exercise or less walking than usual. Yesterday I managed to walk for about 3,000 steps between my long walk and also walking around here. But 13,000 steps is actually not that much for me. I usually do a little bit more. I try to do a minimum of 10,000 a day, which I find keeps me healthy in mind and body, and that's what I like. In theory, the building is about 250 years old. I say in theory because definitely under me it is 250 years old. Obviously, it's a very old apartment, very old ceiling. But this level and above may have been built in early 19th century, so it's a little bit younger than 250 years old, but it's still very old, and dust just gets in. Clean my floors, do a bit of dusting, mop the floors. I'll either do that today. Yeah, I was thinking, it feels somehow wrong to turn on the vacuum cleaner because it's just so quiet. I don't hear any steps out on the street, any steps. So this is no vehicle traffic, or very little. In the street behind me there is a little bit of vehicle traffic, as I showed you in my first video. I know today is Sunday, and normally Sunday would be a quieter day, but still. Sometimes I wonder whether this is all a dream, that I'm going to wake up soon and it's all been a weird dream. Do you know? It's not. It's just that we've never gone through anything like this. This is completely new. And our generation, and I'm talking about people who were born like me in the 1960s, we were so far, generally in Western Europe, we didn't really have too many terrible things happening. But gosh, compared to the lives that our parents, our grandparents, their grandparents, we've had it easy. And so for us, this is going to be a shock to the system. Even if we don't get the virus at all, the economic crisis upon us is going to be quite sobering at best. So extraordinary days that we are passing. He goes on and mentions how extraordinary it was that the pandemic was not more written about. So he goes on to say, the Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature of 1919 to 1921, there are 13 inches of columned space devoted to citations of baseball stories, 47 inches devoted to prohibition, 20 inches devoted to Bolshevism, so the 1917 revolution in Russia, and then only 8 inches devoted to the flu. And the flu, the pandemic, killed over 20 million people, they estimate. So it's quite extraordinary that there hasn't been more people writing about it. And even authors, John dos Passos, who by the way had Portuguese heritage, he crossed the Atlantic on a troop ship on which soldiers were dying of the Spanish flu every day, and he has only one reference to the flu in his novel titled 1919. Extraordinary. So instead of overdosing on TV news and YouTube news, I actually made the most out of my masterclass subscription. If you haven't heard of Masterclass Online, where you can do online masterclasses with all these world-class experts on all kinds of things, well, usually I will do masterclasses on writing and filmmaking and things that deeply interest me, because I'm a creative writing teacher. So far I've done just about all their creative writing masterclasses with people like Joyce Carol Oates and Malcolm Gladwell. I actually only paid 140 Australian dollars for a full year's subscription. So that's quite a bit of money, but my goodness, those courses are fabulous. And I still have a few months to go for it to finish my subscription. So because they keep updating masterclasses, so I found this fantastic masterclass by David Sedaris. And David Sedaris is an North American writer, a memoir writer. He calls his memoirs essays, interestingly, but they are essentially short stories, and he's incredibly funny as a writer and as a speaker. So I'm really enjoying this masterclass. So I was doing that last night. I was watching that instead of the news, and I found myself laughing out loud about just the things he has to say. He basically says that we should be writing we all should be writing our life, and I believe that too, because there's no such thing as a boring life. It's good for us, and it makes other people laugh, assuming the story is funny, but some stories can be very serious indeed. I mean, he talks about his sister's suicide, so, but somehow they strike us deeply, even when they are said in a sort of superficially a funny way or deeply funny way. So humor can be actually a very powerful effect. Really, really recommend, if you can, go on masterclass and enjoy the classes. And there's one for everyone. I mean, there's cooking masterclasses, there's interior design masterclasses, which I'm recommended for my youngest daughter. I don't think we will forget this particular pandemic. I don't think that we will have 20 million deaths. I actually am quite confident that we will not, because our healthcare systems and advances in medicine will make it, well, much better for our generation. But still, I mean, extraordinary, isn't it, that we hear so much about that era, the 1920s, the World War I, the Russian Revolution. I guess they had their plate full, didn't they, with so many things happening. Yeah, so I had lunch, and I just remembered I came across today this article in Courier Mail, which is the Brisbane newspaper, and it's you can scroll through and see all the impacted flights that have arrived in Brisbane that had infected people on board. They're actually, scarily, they say you're only meant to quarantine if you are sitting in those rows, when you should be quarantining anyway if you're arriving in Brisbane from overseas, I should have thought. But look at Emirates. Just about every Emirates flight, the same flight that I would be taking from Dubai to Brisbane, has been impacted by confirmed cases of the virus, not to mention the non-confirmed cases, which I suspect are many. Still, but see, and it's curiously, it's mostly the Emirates flight to Brisbane from Dubai that is impacted. I'm pretty sure that Emirates flies to other cities directly from Dubai, other Australian cities, and yet it seems to be Brisbane. So it's not like I was petrified of catching the virus. Obviously, I didn't want to catch the virus in my flights to Brisbane via Dubai, but it looks quite likely that a lot of people were infected Dubai airport, as well as on the flight, even though they're saying they're being more strict with cleaning the planes. They weren't on the way here. When I came from Brisbane to Lisbon via Dubai, I didn't notice any extra cleaning. In fact, when we got on the plane in Brisbane, they didn't even give us those hot towels that they usually give you to clean your hands. Yeah, flying is something you should definitely not be doing at the moment if you're at risk, I'm thinking. I will leave you with those thoughts. Let's keep recording our thoughts and feelings, whether you use video in the video capabilities in the camera of your phone, of your smartphone, or whether you're writing it down, these things, or whether you're just texting each other and calling each other, and just, I feel that recording our thoughts and feelings and impressions is important. We don't want to forget. It is important for us now and for us in the future. But anyway, I'll leave you with all those reflections for today, and yeah, see you tomorrow again. I hope you have an excellent day, you and yours, and you stay safe, and see you tomorrow.